Hello and welcome to the 11th in this series of Django screencasts called Django from the Ground Up. In this episode, we're going to be refactoring our views that have to do with events to now take into account the new social features that we've added to the site. If you don't remember, Start the Dark is a completely full-featured website where you can go to, and if you click on open source at the bottom, there's links to everything you'll need to know. So where we left off last time with our views in the events module, we had a tonight and an archive view, and right now they pretty much do the exact same thing with the exception of this today filter. But today what we're going to do is we're going to basically completely rewrite these to use our new views. So basically what we're going to have is we're going to have the concept of each of these two views having two purposes. One purpose is going to be when the user's logged in, and when the user's logged in, they're going to see something else, something different from when they're logged out. And also they're going to have the concept of showing everyone versus just your friends. So let's build that concept into the keyword arguments first. Let's just say everyone equals true. So by default, if there's no extra argument passed, then what we get is a list of everyone. It doesn't have to do with just our friends. So then we want to do a check to see if the user is authenticated. If the request.user.is authenticated, then what we're going to do is we're going to say my events. So this is just your events equals events.filter creator equals request.user. And then we also have to do events that you're attending. So or events.filter attendance user equals request.user. And doing this double underscore traverses that relation. And then also, this is sort of a trick. It's not super apparent by just looking through the documentation, but you can just take two query sets, and we're taking each one of these query sets is filtered down from here, and combine them with the bar separator to create an or kind of relationship. And then we're also going to filter down the events to be events equals events dot exclude creator equals request dot user dot exclude attendance user equals request dot user. So we're going to now take those events that were here and my events, and we're going to exclude them from our now events set. So we don't want to actually show our events twice, so we wanted to get rid of them. Okay, and then the last thing we want to do is if we're authenticated, let's get a list of who we're following. So following equals request.user.following set.all.values list to user. And now we're going to do flat equals true. And thank you to Jan R, who pointed this out. You don't need to do a list comprehension like we were doing in the other part of the in the social networking part. We were doing a list comprehension to figure out all of the to users, but you don't need to. You could just say values list and say flat equals true. It's a great tip. Thanks, Jan R. Okay, so then if they are not authenticated, we need to do something else. We need to do my events equals event.objects.none, and we need to say following equals none, because these are both things that we're going to pass into the context. So then in the context we have new things to add. We can say my events are my events, following is following, and event form we're going to pass in as event form. And this allows us to, in that template, create a form which allows us to create an event right in that template. So we have event form imported up here. I went to the trouble of doing that already, and it looks like we already have everything else imported that we need. So let's go and do archive as well. So in archive, we're going to do something very similar. We're going to say events no longer is event.objects.filter, but it's also event dot objects dot filter attendance. Oops, let's user is null equals false. So any events from your that any of the events that have at least one attendee or that are the latest. So then if we do if request.user.is authenticated, we can do something like following equals request.user.following set.all.values list to user, and then flat equals true. And that's all we really need to do there. Otherwise, we'll just say following equals none. And if not everyone, so if for whatever reason you don't want to look at just everyone, you want to look at your friends maybe too, and then we'll say following dot append request dot user dot id, and yes, because we already have following up here, and if we're not looking at everyone, since we're going to be wrapping this in a login required, we can just append that to this list already. So then what we can do is we will say events equals events.filter creator in equals following. So anyone who has created an event, or events.filter attendance user, so the person who's attending the event is in following. Or I'm sorry, who created it. Okay, and then we're done with that everyone clause. We can just say events equal events dot order by creation date descending, and then by start date after that. And then sometimes I've noticed that this is just in my experience going through and doing a lot of these ORs, especially when you're traversing things like attendance user is null. You'll get sometimes more than one result comes in. And so what we want to do is we just want one result per clause. So we're going to do dot distinct, and that will handle the cases that that happen to come back more than once. And actually, this is something we're going to want to do up in our tonight page too. I forgot to do this. So we're going to say events equals events dot order by start date, and then creation date. And the minus here is for descending. If we didn't want that, we could just get rid of it for ascending. And then we're going to do dot distinct there as well. And now we can go back down and finish our context here. And so if we think about the things that we've added, basically all that we've added are the following lists. So following. And then I've already gone through and added these new views to the URLs to speed things up, but I'll just kind of browse through them quickly. So for tonight, we passed login required, and we set everyone as to false. If we're looking at the archive, we wrap login as required, because both of these require a logged in user so that you can look at your friends. And then, but we say everyone is false there too. And then if we're looking at everyone, then we do everyone tonight, and we don't wrap that in a login required. And we can say everyone equals true, and we do the same thing here, and we give names to each of those things. So then I've already built the archive and the tonight templates. There's nothing really special about either of these things. The archive template, I'm regrouping the events by the creation date, and then labeling, and then going through the different dates and labeling them like that. And then for tonight, we're doing a similar thing where with the added extra of if the user is authenticated, Then we add this extra form where you can say that I'm actually going to this event tonight right from this page. Otherwise, we just display the events. So the same, pretty much most of the same code from here, except for slightly different variable names depending on different things. So okay, so let's actually look at what we've got. If we look at what the page is here, right now it says that I'm not doing anything tonight. So I'll say I'm going to Super Happy Dev House, which is true. So then, if we go to archive, we can see that whoa, I've got a problem, and this is actually on the live site, so I'm gonna have to check that out. But what we can do here is, oops, looks like it got bigger. If we go to archive, and we can see what the error was right then. So the error is values list query set has no attribute append. So what we need to do actually is, oops, and my mouse just ran out of battery, I think, too. I'm having a great screencast. So if we go in here and we look at our values query set, what we want to do is we want to just evaluate that back to a list, because we no longer care that it's actually a query set. We're not going to do any further refactoring or anything like that. So we'll just bring it back to a list. And if we do that, we reload the page and everything works. Now, this gives me a chance to sort of preview something that we're going to be doing later on, which is I made this change right before I started the screencast. So what I want to do is git status, and it looks like I changed views.py. So I'm going to do git commit, and then the message was fixed a bug in views.py where values list didn't have an append statement. Then we can push, and I'm pushing it to my server. And then the cool thing is we can just do this awesome thing called fab deploy. I type in my password, it gets the latest from the Git repository, it syncs the DB, it restarts Apache, and now on the website itself, the new code is fixed. So that was sort of a preview of something we're going to do in probably 1 or 2 episodes. So in this episode, what we've done already is we have modified our tonight and our archive view to use some fairly advanced query set operations like ORing and doing traversing over relationships, and we've updated that to use our new social graph features. And we've also previewed how we're going to be deploying to the site. So, given that, I will see you next time, where we'll be exploring how to do Ajax and media on Start the Dark.